Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to show you why it's best practice to move your home directory to another drive. And also I'm going to show you an example if you didn't have it before, how you can migrate everything from your home directory to another drive. Maybe because your drive is full, or maybe you want to protect your system or make it easier to backup. So it has a couple of advantages. The first one is disk management. The other one is backup and recovery. We also have some isolation, and we have some extra features we can do is for example multi-boot systems, so you can share a disk between multiple systems. So disk management is going, of course, if you put a disk in, an extra disk, it's going to give you some more space. Also, if you have only one drive and it runs out of storage, it's probably going to affect your processes in your program, because if you reboot and the system is full, sometimes your processes don't going to start on, and it's going to give you some errors and not a great time. With backups, it's also possible to now only backup one disk, the disk with all your personal data on it, and not your system. So it makes the backups very small. Also, it makes it super easy to recover from it, because you don't have encrypted data or any overhead. And if the system got corrupted, it will not affect your home directory disk. And also you can, of course, plug the drive in another PC and you can recover your files without even having a backup. Also, great advantages, of course, is isolation. So if your system has a problem and it doesn't want to boot up, it won't affect your personal data disk, where all your home directories or your other partitions are. Also, a big advantage is maybe if you have a double boot. For example, if you have a Windows PC and you want to have some Linux with dual boot on it, but you want to share some folders or some directories, you can set up a shared disk. And if you start, for example, you have some files in Windows and you want to reboot it to Linux to use that files again, you can make a shared disk, so you can access your home directory from your Windows to your Linux PC. There is one thing you have to look for, is that they support, of course, the same file system. For example, ext4 is not supported for Windows and only for Linux, so you have to have some sort of file system that can support both operation systems. What do we need? Of course, we need a Linux system to migrate our home directory to our new drive, and of course we need two drives, so our primary drive and our second drive. So which tools we need? We need fdisk and we need mkfs. It's pre-installed on the most systems. I recommend first to backup your system before you go on. Then we're going to identify our new disk we placed in the system. We're going to check if it already has partitions. Then we're going to create new ones. We're going to create a partition table, and then we're going to create multiple partitions. Then we're going to create a file system on the partitions, and then we can mount them temporarily to copy all our current home directory files to that new partition. Then we're going to backup our home directory. We can just change the name with the example home.backup or alt, for example. Then we're going to create a new home directory. It's going to be the new one that's located to the new partition. We're going to remount the whole partition to the current home directory, and then we're going to make the mount permanently. This is all the commands we're going to use. I will show you in the video now. Now we can start the fun parts. So I'm gonna log in on my SSH machine. You can do it too on an SSH terminal. Maybe you can log in remotely or locally on some machine or even on the desktop and open a terminal on that. I'm going to log in with SSH and give him my passwords. I'm gonna clear the screen. So the first thing I assume is that you already installed the drive. Maybe it's a new drive, maybe it's a drive you already used. So first we're going to check if you recognize the disk. So we can do it with lsblk. It will give us a list of all the drives and virtual drives there are on your machine. So you can see that I have two main drives, SDA, it has some partitions on it, and we have SDB. It doesn't have any partitions, and the size of 50 gigabytes. So that's the one for me. That's my new drive where I want to migrate all the home directory files to. Yours could be another name. It could be SDC or SDD even. You have to look for it. And maybe if you have an M.2 drive, it will give it in some sort of NVMe drive, and it will be different. So first check which drive your is and which name it is. It's very important, because if you give if you format the wrong disk, you could lose a lot of data. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check if there is a partition label on it and if it has some data on it. So we can check it with fdisk flag L. Give him my passwords. You're going to look for the same name, like here it is for me, and you see that it doesn't have any partition label or anything, so it's a brand new drive. So if it has a partition name here, it's probably have a partition table, so you don't have to make a new one. Okay, now we can start to make a partition and a partition label. So we can also do it with fdisk. So we're going to put the fdisk command back. Then we're going to give in the name of your disk. It's important that you have the right disk, otherwise it could be dangerous and you can lose some data. So be careful with this. Choose the right disk. Okay, and then it's going to give us a couple options. The best thing to do is type M so you can see all the options. Because we don't have a partition label, I'm going to make one. If you already have one, you don't need to make any one, but you can make a new one. I'm going to start with making one with a G, and it makes already a new one. Then what we can do is we can make a new partition. I'm going to make 3 partitions, one for my home directory, another for some settings, and another for my Docker files. So it's all separated in its own partition. Automatically, it's going to choose 1 for its number. I will keep it 1. We're going to also have the default first sector, and the last sector we're going to change to, it depends how big you want to be your partition to be. In my case, I want it to be like 30 gigabytes. This you can type 30 G. Oh, I made it 40. So if you made some fault or anything, you can quit it and you can redo it. So it's not saved yet. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to make the label again and my partition. And 30 gigabytes. Okay, and if you want to make another one, you can press N back and make it default. This also. And I'm going to make this one 10 gigabytes. And I'm going to make a last one, and I keep it all default, so it's use up the size that is left over. Okay, so now I made everything, all the partitions, so I can save it. You can do with W, and now it's saved. Okay, now we can check if our partitions are made. You can do it with lsblk, and now you see that we have 3 partitions with the right size we give them. Okay, but we have still one problem. You can see we don't have mounts, and we also don't have a file system on them, and we need a file system on every partition. So how we get a file system on it? You can use the tool mkfs, and now you're also going to choose which type of file system you want to use. I am on a Linux, you are also on a Linux, but maybe you want the disk also to be readable for Windows. You probably need exFAT or any other kind of file system that supports both operation systems. In my case, I just only want to have it accessible on a Linux machine. So I'm going to choose X4 for my file system, and then you're going to choose your partition. So for my case, I'm going to give all these disks the same file system. So I'm going to do this 3 times. Okay, now we have a file system on them. Now we can mount the partitions. So we need some point first to mount it to. We're going to make one with makedir, and we're going to mount it to the mnt folder, and we're going to call it home directory for our first partition. Oh, of course it's make directory. Okay, now we can finally mount one. We can do it with mount def and our partition name, and we can mount it to home directory. So if we now go to lsblk, we can see our first partition is mounted to these parts. We can do the same for all other partitions we make. So we have to make a Docker mounting point and a setting mounting point. And then we have to do the same here. Docker, choose partition 2 for it. And we have setting. And we have partition 3 for it. So now all our partitions are mounted to a folder. Okay, so now what we can do is we can copy all our home directory files to a mounting point. How do we do it? We do it with the copy command. I choose sudo for it, and we're going to choose some options. We're going to use A and R. This makes it so every subdirectory and folder and files are also copied, so we have everything. And now we have to choose, of course, everything from the home folder, and we're going to copy it to the home directory we just created. If we do that, we can check. I recommend check everything, so every file is in our new directory. So we can mount, and here's my user and every file. Okay, it looks good. Yes, all my Docker containers are there. So I also recommend to keep your home directory for now and change it to another name. So for example, home.alt. Of course, we need sudo permissions to do it. And now we can also make a new home directory. I'm going to make dir home, and we have a new home directory in our old home directory. So now we can remove our temporary mounts to our home directory folder. We can do it with sudo mounts. Now we can choose dev and our right partition name. So now if you look, our home partition is not mounted anymore. Okay, that's what we want. But now we can finally mount it to the home folder, the new home folder we created. So what we do is we do mounts, choose our partition, and we want the home directory now. So now if you look and you type back lsblk, then you see it's finally mounted to the home directory. So if I ls into home, it will probably, yes, show exact my files. Oh, ls, yes, docker. Okay, yeah, every file is there on my home pad, but there is still one problem. The problem is if I restart my machine, for example, sudo restart, reboot, you will see all my colors are gone. But why my colors are gone? And if I look to ls or to lsblk, you see the mount, all the mounts are gone. So Linux will automatically remove the mounts. Every time the system reboots, it needs to be mounted again. So we need to make the mount static. So that's what we're going to do. So we have to edit a file for it. So first of all, we need the ID of the partition table, and we can do it with sudo blk id, and then give the path where the partition is, tp1, and give the passwords. And this is our partition ID. I will recommend save it in a notepad file, because we need it in the next step. So the next step is to edit a file, and there we're going to place the ID in. So the system knows that we have to mount it to a specific path on boot up. So we need to have fstab for it. So if you log in, you will see already some mounting points that's for your system. We're going to add one. You can copy this from the description, and we have to edit the ID here. So we can go back to our notepad and paste the ID here. Okay. Now it should work. Just if we do now make our mounts permanent, it's an error inside of it on line 3. Yes, it's because I put an A here. Okay. And we can check, yes, and we now have back a home folder. We can also check it in lsblk, and the mounting point is back. You can also do it for all other partitions. I'm not going to do that. And if we now want to reboot our system, you will see everything is now with a new partition. You see now, if we start up the system, we automatically going to mount a path. And this is how you change your home directory to another partition or disk. Okay, Now we can check if our partitions are made. You can do it with lsblk, and now you see that we have 3 partitions with the right size we give them. Okay, but we have still one problem. You can see we don't have mounts, and we also don't have a file system on them, and we need a file system on every partition. So how we get a file system on it? You can use the tool mkfs, and now you're also going to choose which type of file system you want to use. I'm on a Linux, you are also on a Linux, but maybe you want the disk also to be readable for Windows. You probably need exFAT or any other kind of file system that supports both operation systems. In my case, I just only want to have it exable on a Linux machine. So I'm going to choose X4 for my file system, and then you're going to choose your partition. So for my case, I'm going to give all those disks the same partition. I'm going to give all these disks the same file system. So I'm going to do this 3 times. Okay, now we have a file system on them.